Hello and welcome to Zen and the Art of Eloqua, presented by Mass Engines. My name is Ari and today we're going to be talking about preference management solutions, specifically how to choose the right preference management solution for your business and weighing the pros and cons of several different solutions as well. On the screen you will see a preference management solution that we designed for a client, and we'll be getting into that in just a couple of minutes. But first I want to talk to you guys about the goals of preference management. So what are you looking as a company to get out of preference management, and what are you looking for your customers to get out of preference management? So number one, you really want to enable your users to tailor the experience with your company. So instead of you dictating exactly what they're going to hear based on the profile that you have in Eloqua or your other marketing automation tool, instead you should really be allowing them to choose what they want to hear. And by allowing them to choose what they want to hear, you're going to appeal to their interests much more. They're going to be much more involved with your company and much less likely to unsubscribe. So number two, we need to allow outbound communications to be as granular as needed. So in order to support a preference center, we need a certain level of granularity in outbound communications. You can't have a preference center with just one preference, right? So this is going to allow your communications to be much more targeted as well. So you can target exactly and specifically the people that you think should be getting these communications, and they can choose what they want to hear as well. Number three, we want to reduce the likelihood that you are spamming your contacts with unwanted content. So by allowing your users to choose what they want to hear from you, we're going to greatly reduce the unwanted spam on topics that they don't really care about from your company. Number four, we want to enable prospect qualification. We're going to be going into much more detail on this later, but essentially a preference center is a great way to gather data, and this will enable prospect qualification for you. Number five, we want to deliver an overall better end user experience. So the entire package will deliver a better end user experience, and we stated it before, but should be stated again. So let's get into preferences versus subscriptions. So there's a distinct difference. There's a couple different solutions related to each, and we're going to go over what your company may want to use and some things to think about for both. So the aim is to allow end users to have full control over what content that they receive. So there's two parts to this. So the vehicle that the content is delivered in, as well as what the content actually is. So on the screen here, you can see a preference management solution that we have done for a client. This is actually a preference center. And so there's a distinct difference between a preference and a subscription center, and we're going to go into what these are. So what really makes this a preference center is the areas of interest here. So we have our high-level buckets up here, but on top of this, we have areas of interest, which is going to allow much more granular targeting in the back end. However, it's much less reliant on the high-end buckets, which are actually email groups within Eloqua. Alternatively, we have here what is a subscription center. So on the right-hand side of the screen, we have high-level buckets, bulletins and newsletters, education, training and events, product communications, and under each are subscribe and unsubscribe toggles, and these directly relate to an email group within Eloqua. So we don't have the areas of interest here for the targeting via segmentation, but we simply have granular subscriptions directly relating to email groups. So the real question is, what should your business use? And honestly, there is no right answer to this question. You need to evaluate the needs of your business and decide what's going to fit you best. It really comes down to the style of outbound communication that you're sending out and what your organization can support. So this is really a key part in ascertaining whether or not you are ready for preference management, is looking at your outbound communications and deciding on a path to take. So let's talk about outbound communications a little bit here. So really what I'm talking about when I say we need to assess outbound communications is that we need to look at the email groups within Eloqua. So what your outbound communications are And for each email group, you really want to ask yourself, could somebody be interested in X but not Y? So let's use an example of event invites and webinars. Webinars are technically event invites, so you could have them grouped into the same bucket. But could somebody be interested in webinars but not event invites, or vice versa? So if the answer is ever yes, you really want to consider splitting that email group into 2 or more and get more granularity from your communications that way. So the way your preference management is structured will be dictated by the style of your outbound communications. So let's talk a little bit about this. So batch and blast communications are best suited more to a subscription center. So the ones seen on screen, the direct correlation to email groups is much more suited to a batch and blast style of outbound communication. However, if you're really looking to get granular with your segmentation and your targeting, and you feel you can support that granularity and that targeting with your outbound communications, perhaps a preference center is better than the subscription center for you. And again, both are valid. It really just depends on your business. So let's go back to this guy here, and we're going to talk about what's on the left-hand side of the screen now. So really talking about the profile and demographic data that you can collect on a preference or a subscription center. So one of the biggest ways that preference management can impact your company is through the collection of data, and this often goes overlooked. This is really an opportunity to collect data relevant to your company. So people are already on the preference center or the subscription center. They're obviously interested in hearing from you. So we can use this as an opportunity to collect data that's relevant to your company that may actually enable your sales team to have a better conversation. So we don't only want just the basics. We can also get data that is relevant to qualifying leads. We had a client that identified vertical market and job title as indicative of a potential lead's buying power, and this was really important to them. So stuff like that is actually very important to collect on the preference center. In the case of the one on screen, we're collecting job role as well as their primary specialty in that job role, and this is very important to this specific company. So really, you need to identify what you can collect from the users of the preference center or the subscription center. So by allowing the preference center to gather this information, we not only gain insight into the user profile, but also enable lead qualification. So this is going to, again, allow the sales team to have better informed conversations and overall have the potential to make a sale just from the information that we collected qualifying that lead. So in conclusion, I really hope this has provided some insight into preference management solutions and how they can benefit your company and your customers. I hope that you're able to take this back, kind of digest it, think about the pros and cons and what your company can use and interpret what is best for you. And I hope you're now informed of the choices available.